Welcome back to the channel. Tonight I'm going to do the second part of the video that I started yesterday. I didn't want to make that one too long, but yesterday we talked about frustration and the frustration that people are feeling with this global event we're all dealing with right now. And many people throughout, certainly the United States and throughout the world, are now really starting to get very, very frustrated. In my book, The Deathless War, I talked and had a couple pages designated to what I called my frustration with something that I just went over talking about within that chapter. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. My frustration, to go back to where it started, was back in 1948, Israel became a nation. This is the ultimate super sign, the starting point that Bible scholars could now start looking at for end time events to happen, because in essence there was a prophecy in the Bible, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, make it very, very simple, is that people that are alive when the nation of Israel becomes a nation again, which it did in 1948. It was not a nation from the first century until 1948. The Jewish people were scattered all over the world, and it became a nation state again, and the Jewish people then congregated back. But in 1948, until the end time events, all of these horrific things that Jesus talked about that were going to happen in the Bible, that generation would not pass away until they saw all those things. So they had to be alive on 1948 when Israel became a nation, and they have to be alive at the end final events that actually occur at the end of the tribulation period. So this has been known to biblical scholars for centuries, to look for this sign. And it's extremely clear that the fig tree is the nation of Israel. So in the first century, once the Bible was completed, within years, certainly within the second century, people would have been looking for the nation to recongregate, again, the Jewish people to recongregate on a nation, some geographic location. And when they did, that would be the sign that when they came together, that these end times events would occur within their lifetime. Well, we went through almost 2 millenniums. And anyway, we get to 1948. So all Bible scholars, all churches that use the Bible as their foundational basis for their beliefs fully understand this. Well, why is it that since that time, churches have not told people this is the ultimate super sign and continue to get people prepared for the end time sequence events, all of that difficulty? Why is it constantly not discussed and talked about? Sure, it's discussed and talked about, let's say, in smaller quarters, but when people go to church, they want to hear the truth. And if you know something, if you're an expert on something, you want to share that truth. The problem with churches is that they don't tell people the whole truth. They tell people maybe what they feel that they want to hear. Why? Because you start talking about fire and brimstone issues, you're going to have churches virtually empty. I mean, how often will you continue to preach that way and have people continue to congregate at your church or your facility? Nevertheless, it's extremely important to get people prepared for these events. So now, fast forward, okay, this is from 1948 until the year 2020. Churches have not done this. They have not prepared people for what's coming. And now everyone has this opportunity right now. In my belief, in my ascertaining what I'm seeing and what I'm actually feeling, is that this is a wake-up call for the entire world. Everybody needs to start paying attention to this and start preparing immediately. This is unfortunate because for many people that have been attending church for decades and decades throughout their whole entire life, myself included, have never been told you need to prepare for this, right? It might happen in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. Well, it's taken quite a lot longer, and we still don't know when these end times events are going to happen, but the Bible is extremely clear that the generation will not pass away until they see everything. So people that were lived and were alive in 1948 until the very end time sequence. So that was the frustration that I was talking about in the book. And again, I paraphrase this. You can pick up the book, and it goes into greater detail on this end time sequence and why we should be preparing a long time ago. But now we have this opportunity of looking and seeing how life could potentially be with tremendous economic devastation. We're certainly seeing a lot of earthquakes and volcanoes and signs and other things that we can start to imagine and think about. And that's what my book helps you see and understand. I talk about being in my first earthquake and the many earthquakes that I've been in, seeing meteor showers and how they just lit up the sky with fire, literally going from across the sky from horizon to horizon. I mean, it was an unbelievable sight. I explain that in the book. And so it helps you to start preparing for things that are to come. So again, I didn't want to make these too long, but I wanted to kind of separate the two. I get and understand that you're incredibly frustrated right now, but I want you to really take heart with the more important thing isn't the frustration that you're having right now. Think bigger. Think 30,000 foot view of what's happening, and that we're going to get through this and we're going to be on the other side of it. But start preparing yourself today. Start preparing for this. Get your mental mindset on, and then start dealing with all the other, getting your household in order and all of that, other things that I talk about in the book to help prepare you to be an absolute warrior during this end time sequence. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.